Hey guys, it's us.
Yes. Hello.
We're gonna keep this intro short because I have a feeling this one's gonna stretch out a while. Have you noticed that on this channel there have been a lot of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory themed videos?
God, you are not blind.
There was the Chuck thing, the coincidence video, the Chuck commentary,
Yeah, so,
in which we discussed that of the two adaptations of Roald Dahl's classic book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we have the unpopular opinion of thinking, or in our opinion, knowing that the 2005 Tim Burton movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, is superior to Gene Wilder / Quaker Oats Company,
advertisement.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Not to say, as we also talked about there, but not to say the original one isn't good. It's great. When you compare them, the new one honestly has a lot more to it and is honestly kind of more enjoyable.
We love both movies.
Yeah, and the old one is like classic and undeniably great.
We grew up with that one.
Yeah.
But then once the 2005 version rolled around, even right then I knew that this is the better movie.
Yeah, it really shows you like what you can do with technology over time, like, and how they, with, or no longer modern, or decade past modern, technology can really enhance what we can do with this.
It's not even just the visuals though; it's everything.
Yeah, like they've developed the story and characters a lot better.
But
we'll get into
But
that.
I do, like I said, we love both movies, and we do want to mention, of course, that both of these are very different movies, despite being based off the same source material.
When I was watching them, it had been a while since I'd watched them all the way through, but when I went and rewatched them during Chuck, I was like, these are so hard to compare because they're so different. It's like, yeah, it almost felt like I was watching two different movies that just had a similar source material.
When we're reviewing these, we're taking the rose-colored glasses off, and we are not counting, like, say, the Oompa Loompa songs. Oh, they're classics, so they're better. No, we're just going to look at both things at face value.
As if they were made at the exact same time.
Exactly, kind of like a Bug's Life Ants thing.
Yeah.
So,
although they were made pretty close.
We're going to be kind of harsh on the Wonka version, but again, we really like it. But let's start with doing the two things they did better.
Yeah, so first of all, the elephant in the room, Wonka himself.
Yeah.
You really can't top Gene Wilder.
A lot of people unfairly judge the new version because they don't like Wonka. They say, oh, I didn't like Wonka, so the whole movie's garbage.
Which, sure, like, Wonka took up, like, most of the movie, but still, like, and not to say that Johnny Depp Wonka wasn't good. It's pretty enjoyable to watch and really funny in, like, most parts. It just doesn't seem like Willy Wonka.
Well,
it just seems like Johnny Depp.
Technically, it does. Well, actually, it seems more like Michael Jackson than anything.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Because that's who it's based off. But if you look in the book, because a lot of people are wondering, how did they even come to this conclusion? Wonka's not like this. Yeah, he is. Read the book.
Yeah, that's one thing that you'll be hearing us say a lot. The new one is surprisingly
it is an adaptation of the book.
Yeah, it's not an adaptation of the old movie. It's an adaptation straight of the book, and therefore it's a lot more accurate than the original movie.
It's kind of like the new version. Alright, so say that the Charlie version came out first, and then the Wonka version, it was like a remake of that, sort of.
Yeah.
Because they're not really connected. It doesn't follow the book at all, but we'll get to that. Anyways, in the book, Wonka is insane. Like, when Augustus gets sucked into the pipe, he's making fun of him and everything, and he's insane. But although, like I said before in the Chuck commentary, although that it's like the book, that doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah, but in this particular instance, that's just something we're noting, and we'll note in other times, but that's just a thing that we want to clarify.
Yeah, Wilder is just great as Wonka.
Yeah, he's got that same feeling of, like, he's strange and mysterious and really off and, like, practically bipolar. Like, but yet there's just this complete other side to him of just kind of this warmth and welcomingness. Like, he's actually interested in meeting the kids.
Although that scene is hilarious in the new one.
Yeah, it is a great scene. That's kind of like what I was saying, like, even though the Depp Wonka is, like, hilarious, like, Gene Wilder was just really cut out for that role.
And then the second one, this is the part that even I can't stand. I mean, I like the new take on Wonka, but even when I watch the movie, I fast forward through these parts. The really awkward and clumsily written flashbacks to Wonka's childhood.
Yeah, those were kind of distracting from the plot. Like,
It has nothing to do with anything.
yeah, until like at the end, which
Again, that I'm incorporating into that.
yeah, like it's just like that really was unnecessary. Like, I'm not necessarily opposed to them having thrown in like flashbacks somehow, but they just that it wasn't the best they could do. Like,
None of it was funny except for
Yeah.
the one brief scene where he's going through the flag center. In
yeah, the flags of the world.
Yeah, that was the only funny part. Even
Yeah.
Christopher Lee, great as he was, God rest his soul, he did not belong in this.
Yeah,
I could have seen him as Mr. Salt, but make him Wilbur Wonka, DDS? I don't think so.
yeah, it just wasn't really fitting. Like, felt out of place.
And it
distracted.
ruined the end of the movie.
Yeah, the end of the movie just kind of.
The movie was going so strong up until that point.
Yeah,
But right when Wonka says, of course they can, you can fast forward to that up until they get into the bucket house at the very end. You can go right through that. That's what I do.
yeah, like. If they had just gone there, like, it would have been fine. And it's not like it would have even been too short. It would have been, like, an hour 20.
Yeah.
Or, like, actually an hour 30, I think. Because, like, I think it's an hour 40 minutes, I think. I don't know. I'm just kind of making that up. But I think it's around an hour 40, if I'm remembering right.
Yes.
So taking that out, it'd still be an hour and a half. And that's a good length.
Now let's start with what the Charlie version does better. Sit tight, people. First of all, let's just address the elephant in the room. It's much, much, much closer to the Roald Dahl book.
Yeah. Which, again, as we said, that alone doesn't necessarily make it better. But that's still something you gotta keep in mind.
It's an adaptation of the book, and the Wonka version barely follows it.
Yeah, it's just got the same characters and the same things happen to the characters, but
And funny enough, the costumes, that is
Okay,
it.
yeah,
From
yeah.
the illustrations, the costumes are exact. Other than that, nothing.
yeah.
There are some exact quotes from there, but it's like they took the basic idea of it and then just did it. It's like
Yeah.
with the Ghostbusters from 1970s with Filmation, and then with the Ghostbuster movie. They just took the idea of it.
Which, not to say that's necessarily a bad thing to do, but if you're making a remake of if you're making an adaptation of the book, adapt the book. Which the Willy Wonka movie was remaking the story, not adapting the book. So, they just did it differently.
And so the Charlie version actually was an adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
Aside from those really stupid flashback scenes, literally everything else is from the book.
Yeah,
They got it even the small brief moment where they go to Fudge Mountain, they even got that in there. Almost every single thing in the book was captured.
yeah. Except for, of course, the Oompa Loompas not being, like, African-American and whatnot.
They toned that down.
Yeah, they
We'll
were
get to
still
that.
humans from another actual, like, Earth country.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. but-
So, yes, it follows the book much better, and really, Tim Burton is the best guy I can think of to adapt a Roald Dahl book, because
Yeah.
they're pretty much the same mindset. They're both dark and demented and have a really good art style.
Like, it's, like, dark and demented, but in a very appealing way. Like, you enjoy this strange, twisted humor, but you don't know why you're enjoying it. And you're almost confused at your own self for enjoying it.
And with the Charlie version, you feel like you're watching the book. With the Wonka version, it doesn't feel like Roald Dahl at all.
No, it's way more cheerful, which is not bad. It's just not the book. But
Not even close.
Yeah, like, that's...
The book always had this dark undertone under it, but the Wonka movie just glances over it.
It feels almost just like the Wizard of Oz, at least like the, like, Lollipop Land, whatever. Like, I don't know, it just feels happy and, like, sure,
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Sure, there are kids getting sucked up and blown up and whatnot, but still, like, it doesn't feel like really, just everywhere feels uplifting, and it's just a much different take on it that, don't get me wrong, it's very enjoyable, but for this particular story, that strange, dark, demented humor just works.
Exactly, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, remember the ending scene in the Wonka version? I think the message sits in because you don't see the kids. Yeah, that's definitely what the writers intended. It's not like they could have made Augustus, like, super skinny, and they couldn't have made Mike wire thin and flat. It's like not like they
Yeah.
had the technology to. It's not like they didn't have the technology to do that at the time, so they just didn't include that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like what they did with the Golden Goose Room.
Yeah. So you can. That's one thing that does let you cut the Wonka version a little slack. Is
It was made in the 70s.
yeah. So technology, whatnot. It's sometimes harder to do things.
And some of the Wonka stuff that they added was really good. Like, I like the tunnel scene. I thought that was really cool. But the fizzy lifting drink scene, I'm gonna be honest, it was enjoyable, but it was kind of stupid.
I think the real only gripe with it is it's just not really necessary. I mean, I guess it did kind of contribute to the plot later on when Wonka has his outburst.
But again, that wasn't needed.
Yeah, like, I don't see really what
Charlie
that
is
really
supposed to
added.
win by default. I don't get the gobstopper test. I mean, okay, I understand you're testing the kid's morality, but if I was in that situation, I would have thought Wonka was just giving me a gift.
Yeah.
And I mean, sure, I wouldn't have given it to Slugworth, but I would have walked out with that just thinking, oh, Wonka's cool, he gave me a little souvenir.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, I guess maybe, well, Wonka knew that Slugworth had gone to each of the kids.
Which again, how did he get there? We'll get
Yeah,
back to that point,
yeah.
but
But the kids didn't know that Wonka knew that, so...
yeah, I mean, it was clear that Mike and Veruca were gonna go out to Slugworth, but Violet and Charlie, we have no idea. And then Augustus never got it, so he doesn't count.
Yeah, but probably if he hadn't gotten shrunk, Mike would have won in the original version.
Yeah.
And other than the fact that,
We'll get to that again.
Yeah,
I know
okay,
we
yeah.
keep saying that, but there's just so much to cover.
yeah, that's true. And it's probably smarter to start, like, from the beginning more.
Yes.
Because
And-
otherwise we're gonna start talking about all the...
Anyways, Slugworth. How did he get there? I mean, I know you want Slugworth to be a villain, but he's not much of a villain. I'm sorry. He's barely in the movie.
Yeah, he's more just like this
Veruca
underlying...
is your villain.
Yeah, Veruca is honestly...
The
like-
Veruca and Mike TV are supposed to be your main villains from the book.
Yeah, and the Veruca from the original movie, definitely.
Is the villain.
Yeah, and the Mike from the new movie
Is your villain.
is villain enough, totally.
We'll totally talk about
Yeah.
it. The characters are the best part.
Yeah. So you really don't need Slugworth there.
And how did he get there? I mean, he's in Druselham, Germany one day, and then like in 2 days he's in England, and then he's in Atlanta or wherever, and he just
Yeah.
zigzags everywhere.
Like-
and I can understand if like they found the ticket and then he flew in for their interview days later, but he was there when Veruca found hers.
Yeah.
How does that work?
The only explanation is that Wonka knew exactly where the candy bars with the tickets were, but still that doesn't explain how he knew the order that they were being found. So really there's no perfect explanation, but the best you can get is that Wonka knew exactly where each one with the ticket were.
Or
and
maybe Slugworth found out about how many Wonka bars Mr. Salt was buying, so he did like a stakeout over there or something.
Yeah, I guess something.
But then wouldn't they just be kind of weirded out with this creepy Slugworth guy sitting in the corner for in 3 days in the nut factory?
Yeah, and like in Augustus's interview, he's like on camera when he just like goes up and whispers in Augustus's ears, or all the kids for that matter. Like Veruca's aside, like he's on camera going up and whispering to these kids.
Wouldn't somebody notice?
And be a little suspicious that this creepy guy, this creepy old bald guy with this big scar, is just going up to these kids and whispering to them like.
And Charlie, when he finds his ticket, Charlie finds his ticket, and in 2 minutes he's right in front of him.
Yeah, it's just like, how?
And he knows about Charlie's impoverished family? How?
Well, he's a Wonka spy, but is he really spying on every single child in the world? Is he Santa Claus or something? It just doesn't make sense.
And even if
it doesn't add up.
And even if they gave it to Slugworth, what would they do? I mean, they'd have to say, oh, this was a trap. Yeah, and then what?
And then just send him back home?
What?
Because, like, if they had made it far enough to give it to Slugworth, they surely wouldn't have gotten sucked into a pipe, blown up like a blueberry, or fallen into a bad egg pit.
Or shrunken.
Yeah, or shrunken. But, so they wouldn't have gotten an actual, like, direct punishment, but they wouldn't have won the factory, but I don't know, there's a lot more questionable, like, plot holes in the original one, too.
And even though I like going back to fizzy lifting drinks, I like that scene, even though it was a little stupid. I don't get the point of the Hush La 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 scene. You know, where they're in the car and it spews all the suds on them and then they go through that
Right.
thing. I don't get the point of that at all.
I think what it's supposed to do is like clean them before they go into the TV. Well, yeah, clean them, but like, and it's kind of a funny scene,
But it makes...
but it really doesn't add anything. It's kind of filler.
The
but-
only thing it really adds is Mike saying that he's willing to sell out for Slugworth. That's really... But you could put that in anywhere.
Yeah, and honestly, I guess we'll talk about that later when we get to the characters. But never mind. Never mind. I said anything, which I didn't
And then,
really.
let's see, there were some scenes that they added in and I like, of course, the reason why Gene Wilder was in the movie, where he's walking and he
With the
looks...
cane.
Yeah, and then he falls.
Yep.
Even though it was kind of dumb, I kind of like the scene where they're all stuck in the room together.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny, and I like to get in the chocolate room, he uses the little keyboard thing. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there that are really good, and I can't really complain about, but excuse me, quite a bit of filler too. Like,
Totally. I mean, just there's so much that they had to stuff in, and now let's talk about the musical segments.
okay, the musical. So first of all, one thing we should say is that the original movie was a musical,
Of course.
whereas the new one, the only songs were the Oompa Loompa songs and the Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka.
But I don't want to count that. That's obnoxious.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be obnoxious. That's
It's
kind
funny though.
Yeah. But yeah, the original one was a musical.
And for this, we're not going to count the original songs in there because, well, we can't compare that to anything. I mean, we're going to compare Pure Imagination, the song Pure Imagination, to Now Don't Lose Your Heads, Don't Get Overexcited. Now, I think one of those has obviously a better melody.
Yeah.
So we're just going to compare the Oompa Loompa songs, but briefly for the Wonka version, they're nice songs.
Oh yeah.
They range from really good to from the Candyman one and Pure Imagination to okay, Cheer Up Charlie and I Want a Golden Ticket.
Yeah. Like,
I Want It Now, I like it, but Veruca's just kind of
yeah,
annoying.
Veruca's just in that movie altogether, which sure she's kind of supposed to be, but just she's not entertaining not entertaining, but it's just sometimes it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you need to stop. Time for you to fall into the garbage chute, honey. Go on your way.
So anyways, the songs in the original, the Oompa Loompa songs in the original.
Well, I think we're talking about the Oompa Loompa songs versus the Oompa Loompa song. Because in the original movie, there's only one song. It just gets repeated with different lyrics.
And yeah, it's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it's basically, what do you get when you do that thing? Doing that thing, no one likes that thing. Why do you insist on doing that thing? Do you think it's good to do that thing? I really don't like that thing. Oompa loompa doopa dee da. If you don't do that thing, you will go far. You will live in happiness too. Like the Oompa loompa doopa dee doo. Why the Oompa Loompas Indian?
So, yeah, like...
It's like Mad Libs, the song. It's like, what do you get when you
Guzzle
guzzle
down
down
sweets.
sweets, eating as much as often eats,
Eating as much as a noun eats.
Yeah, it's just fill in the blank. What do you get from a lot of TV? A pain in the neck, like you want 3 weddings, drinks. They're good songs, of course.
Oh, yeah, and, yeah. But it's just... There could have been more, I think.
Yeah.
At the very least, maybe a change in tempo so that, like,
There were a little change.
Yeah.
Like, Augustus was a little more upbeat. Violet's was a little more haunting, which I should think Mike should have had that one.
Yeah,
Veruca's
although
was a
it
little-
wouldn't have been necessarily fair in the old movie, considering there was really no problem with Mike as a character.
Yeah, we'll
He
get
was-
to that. But
yeah.
so Augustus was more upbeat. Violet's was a little more haunting. Veruca's was a little the same as Augustus, and Mike's was a little more a cappella-y.
Yeah, which, like, I feel like, I don't know, it could have just been, like, a little more, like...
They
like
put too much echo in that one.
Yeah.
But in the new one,
First of all, they, like, take the text from the songs written in the book directly to the movie and just write a song, an actual, like, musical song to accompany the lyrics.
of course they have to shorten it, especially the Mike TV one, because
Yeah.
Roald Dahl hated television. But they just took all the best lines and put them together. I mean, sure, they're not in the same order most of the time, but yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
totally
good.
works.
It is from the book.
Yeah, and also each song kind of takes on a different style, which kind of Similar to how the old movie did it with kind of the different tempos, although in that case it was hardly a change. But then when we go here, like, they're full different styles from one song to another. Like, they're a new song for each one that kind of fits for each character.
Augustus is like all upbeat and excitable, kind of getting you in the mood. Violet's is a little quirky and strange. Veruca's is a little haunting and peaceful. And then
Yeah.
Mike's is absolutely insane.
Yeah. You can tell, which, I mean, if you take the lyrics alone, you can tell what Doll is trying to get across here. But then when you add that, just like, boom, 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 just that heavy, like...
Angry sounding guitar and drums and
Yeah.
keyboard.
Yeah, which, Mike didn't really, like, throughout the movie doesn't... I guess we'll talk about that. Never mind. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
But another thing we kind of noticed is the Oompa Loompa songs get, like, they get more harsher and angrier the worse the kid was.
Yeah. Although, the only thing is, like, Veruca, in the new movie, like, it was, like, all, like, kind of, like, hippie and peaceful and all.
And she was probably, she wasn't nearly as bad as normal.
Well, yeah, but she was...
I mean, she was a fine person, but just kind of spoiled.
She really didn't have a problem, like,
It was more
with anyone else. She just was a jerk to her dad, and...
It was more about for Mr. Salt for blaming her.
Yeah.
Or not blaming her, spoiling her, and blaming him for it.
Yeah. Because, like, the only part when they were actually singing about Veruca was singing about all the garbage she'd find in the garbage chute. The actual part where they're singing, like, the lesson of the song, like, you did a terrible thing, why do you do that thing, was when they were singing to Mr. Salt. That's kind of the interesting thing that kind of sets Violet apart. It's not her Veruca. But did I say Violet?
Yeah.
Okay. That, yeah, kind of makes her a little different is she's not the one who really changes, it's the parent.
And then Augustus is just kind of upbeat and just kind of excited of just kind of making this kid realize just what a disgusting blob he is.
Yeah, because Augustus, he's not, like, mean. He's kind of a little
Well,
bit of
he is kind of mean.
Yeah, when he's like, would you like some chocolate?
Oh, sure.
When you showed I bought some. But that's not necessarily mean. It's kind of just more, like, immature.
He's more beastly and impatient.
Yeah, I think in that case scenario, when he says that line there, I think he legitimately thinks that's funny. And thinks that, like, Charlie should think that's funny, too. He's more just kind of ignorant, like, Ferd.
And he's basically got a stomach for a brain, and that's what the Oompa Loompas are putting. And Violet's, since she was competitive and nasty and stuck up, they're making fun of her of just how stupid her hobby is.
Yeah, chewing gum. Like, that one is, like, the one that's, like, probably the least, like, oh, you are a terrible person. Like, what? Like, really?
She's a gentle girl, she sees no wrong, and chewing all day long.
That's kind of like, if you, like, look at the kind of, like, lessons that they teach, like, don't be gluttonous and greedy and selfish. Don't be stuck up and spoiled. Don't, like, obsess over TV and, like, be a jerking know-it-all who is just has no social skills and is rude to everyone.
I'm just a complete monster of a
Yeah,
boy.
and don't chew gum.
Basically, in that one, is just saying, like, just look at how far you're taking this. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you are really, like...
Years and years she chews away, her jaws get stronger every day. With one great tremendous chew, she'll bite her whole tongue in two.
Yeah.
Those aren't the exact lyrics, but you get the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it points out how stupid she's acting. And then, Mike TV's song.
Yeah. Mike, you can tell the Oompa Loompas don't really like him.
Yeah. They sound so angry in this one.
Yeah. And not to mention, not only are they sounding angry, but they're, like, smashing him with a mallet, and, like, sliding him across her piano, banging on the drums, trying to stab him with a knife!
Yeah.
And smashing him with the little magazine thing. Like, they're actually, like, trying to harm him. No one else were they trying to harm. They were just, like, laughing at them or, like, teaching them how wrong they were.
And in Violet's case, they were trying to help her. Maybe, well, Veruca's thing, they were throwing garbage in. Maybe that'll cushion her fall or something.
Yeah, although I think they were kind of trying to just be a little more demoralizing than anything. But, oh well, who
But
knows?
this one is
They
horrifying.
are trying to hurt him! And, like, he's 2 inches tall, it's not like he can... Yeah.
It's not like he can defend himself, but the song is so awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely, like...
We're gonna bring it up more once we talk about Mike himself, because that's kind of the reason why this song works, is because Mike is just a horrible, horrible person.
Yeah, like, he's just a jerk.
So, yeah, we kind of explained that the songs are good in the original, but they're really great in the original. And then there's the visuals.
Like, this is one thing where age does kind of earn you a little bit of slack, because visuals are just kind of hard in older movies. But nevertheless, the visuals in the new one are just amazing. Like, first of all, I'll just start with something pretty simple. The chocolate. It looks like chocolate. Or like the chocolate river specifically. Like, the old one kind of just more like dirty
Water.
Dirty polluted
Which,
water.
ironically, that's the one that used chocolate.
Yeah, but yeah, the new one was just like, actually, it looked like it just had that thickness to it of chocolate.
You could eat that stuff. Well, you wouldn't, because it's made of, like, plastic and paint, but you could eat that if that was chocolate. It
Yeah.
looks like chocolate.
Yes.
And when I read the book and pictured the chocolate room, I pictured what was in the Depp version, not the Depp version, the Burton version, because it looks like you could eat everything in there.
Yeah, like, and also one thing that I just love about the Burton version of the chocolate room is just like, something about it looks so appealing yet off-putting. Like, there's some sort of something about it that just looks twisted.
Some foreboding presence.
Yeah, that just like, it's like when I can't think of an example, but it just looks like.
But in the new one, it's basically a garden with, like, candy
Or
trees.
the old one.
Yeah, in the old one's
Yeah,
garden.
it looks like
candy trees.
Candyland or whatever.
Yeah,
Which,
it's no problem.
like,
it looks
good.
It looks really nice.
yeah, especially if you consider the time. But the new one, not only does it just look amazing and look like edible, like it just looks. It also just kind of like really fits the story, just kind of being, because honestly, that's kind of what the story is, like, really appealing yet an underlying mysterious, twisted, dark presence.
And another thing is, they call it the chocolate room for a reason in the original one, because it looks like a studio set up to look like that. In the new one, it's enormous. It looks endless.
Yeah, like,
And another thing is, it doesn't look like a room. It looks like a cave, sort of.
yeah.
It looks like its own little world. And now a lot of people will say, oh, well, the new one can't be good because it's all green screen. Actually, no, the movie barely used green screen. They actually used green screen for some shots of the waterfall, some shots of the ceiling for the chocolate room, 1 or 2 inventions in the inventing room, and the glass elevator. That's it. And then the only other time they used CG was for the squirrels when they're knocking on Veruca and picking her up. Other than that, all practical effects. So a lot of people will say, oh, it's CG, and therefore I'm not convinced that what I'm looking at is real. Actually, that is real. It's just so big and expansive, you think it had to be done with CG, but it was all done practically, and boy, you better believe that was a strain on the prop designers.
Yeah. Which, of course, the original has no CG either, but...
It did at the very end.
Yeah. But also, CG kind of wasn't really a thing back then.
Yeah.
So, there's your reason.
And the inventing room, of course, the one in the old version just kind of looks like Wonka's basement.
Yeah, with just like some workout equipment or like a heating system. And while we're kind of on the topic of the inventing room and that kind of scene in general, the gobstoppers. See, in the new movie, they look like gobstoppers. In big gobstoppers, but gobstoppers. In the old movie, they look like hexahedrons or whatever.
It looks like one of those like old 90s screensavers on a computer.
Yeah, like, I don't know who...
Who'd want to put that in their mouth?
Yeah, that would hurt. Like, who made that? Like, honestly, I just want to know, like, I mean, it was practically just, like, made to advertise the candy company. You'd think they'd know what their candy looked like. If anything, they look more like giant nerds.
Yeah, if anything.
But they're not.
But in the new one, not only just all the practical sets, but there's inventions everywhere.
Yeah, it feels
again,
like
it goes on forever.
like that's one thing that I also got to praise the new movie for, which part of this, a lot of people, and I don't entirely blame you for this, but for me myself, a lot of like the fact that the factory just feels so much bigger when you're inside of it compared to when you're outside of it. A lot of people will say like, oh, they messed it up, like the seafood restaurant in Jonah when they're playing the Twipo song, like, oh, it's not that big. But if you're just got some suspension of disbelief, like, just like, it just seems so cool that like, the factory is huge already, but then once you go in it, it's like endless. Like, for like every room seems to be endless. I mean, they've got a whole mountain in there for Wonka's sake.
And another thing is, it does have that dismal, foreboding presence. It's
Right,
all
like-
dark in there. There's a bunch of whirring, and Wonka says, "Don't touch anything."
Yeah.
Then we can't really compare the Nut Room or the Golden Goose Room, although I have to say both look pretty good. Then the TV Room, which, although they're very, very similar,
Because they're just pretty much white. But
I kind of like the new one more, because in the book, it was just the glasses. I don't get why you need all the whole suit.
right, yeah, I never got that. Like,
Maybe it's like a radiation thing.
yeah,
But how
maybe
did they
that,
get
but-
it all their exact size?
Yeah, I think one thing that it might have had to do with was like from a I don't know, maybe it was easier to like get the illusion effect of like Mike shrinking with it. I don't know.
I think so.
I'm just making
Actually, that is
yeah.
a good point.
Yeah, like
But that effect was so horrible. Okay,
Yeah.
not when she picked him up. That holds up.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's in the TV, you can see the platform he's standing on.
yeah.
It looks so bad.
hmm
But like I said, whenever they're holding Mike in the old one, it actually really holds up.
Yeah, even though they're using a doll in a lot of shots.
Or like just photo tricks or trick photography, it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, can't complain there.
But those goggles they wear in the old one, those aren't goggles, that's a Halloween mask. How's that going to protect your face?
Yeah, it's
But in the new one, they're these huge goggles, and it looks the part. And how they send it bar by television, again, it's better in the newer one. Like, it's a button, it rises up, flash, goes in the TV. And I like in the new one, it's a TV, not just a screen.
yeah. And also, you gotta kind of give them props for the Space Odyssey
That was pretty
when
funny.
they were lifting the chocolate.
And another
bar.
thing I kind of noticed recently is, in the new one, how Mike gets shrunk is he runs onto the control panel, stomps on the button, and jumps onto the thing, so the Oompa Loompas can't override it.
Yeah, like he does it to himself.
But the Oompa Loompas shrink Mike in the old one!
Yeah, which honestly would have been more fitting for the new one.
Yeah.
Because, like, we'll talk about this a little more, but will say it a little bit now. Like, the new Mike compared to the old Mike, the new one's a monster, the old one's just kind of a normal kid who likes TV. But, like, if the Oompa Loompas were to push the button themselves on either of them, it would probably be with the monstrous jerk Mike.
Just kind of goes up there, what are you waiting for, huh? Do it! They kind of look at each other, they nod, they smile. Beep! Pew!
Yeah. But in the new one, or the old one, he just, like, goes up, like, push a button, and they're like, sure, why not?
I can
When
kinda
they know what's gonna
I
happen.
can kind of see, like, lights, camera, action! I said action! Here, I'll do it myself. Like, they're trying to stop him, but
Yeah.
he grabs the button, like a remote or something, grabs it, pushes it, runs to the thing, and then it hits him just in time.
Yeah. Like, that could have worked, too. But, yeah, like, I feel like that seems a little odd. But, yeah, and it's kind of disturbing to think that the Oompa Loompas, knowing what's gonna happen, are totally cool. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, and of course those people who say, oh, they died in the factory, that means the Oompa Loompas intentionally killed Mike.
Yeah. And, like, oh, I was about to say something else. What was it I was gonna say? It slipped my mind. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up, but, oh well.
And the fizzy lifting drinks thing, it looks, half of it looks nice, but the little bubble thing at the bottom looks like cardboard.
Yeah, and you can, in quite a few shots, see the wires that are holding them up.
But that's the 70s movie.
Yeah,
I can
like,
understand
you
that.
you can't. Yeah.
You have to admit that it is pretty good, though.
Yeah. Once again, though, just as a scene, it wasn't really needed.
And like,
But
yeah,
it's kind of a cool scene.
the Bucket's house is pretty much identical in both versions.
Yeah.
The factory is basically just the same thing as with Age.
Oh, one thing I will kind of point out as a little positive of the fizzy lifting drinks is it does kind of bring, like, throughout the factory, kind of brings the focus a little bit more back on Charlie. Because that's one thing the new one did kind of suffer from, is once they get to the factory and all,
It's Wonka's movie.
and Charlie is like, it's got a few lines here and there, and really doesn't do much until Mike goes.
To be fair, that happened in the book too.
Yeah.
But then again, how they did this fizzy lifting drinks was kind of dumb. This is why I
Yeah.
think it was a stupid scene. I mean, it's not because of what happened. I think what happened was cool. This is why I think it's a stupid scene. Come on, let's go. Hey, Charlie, let's try some. Okay.
Yeah, like... Yeah. And Wonka, like...
But where did everyone
like-
go? Were they just watching him from another room, or were they touring other rooms, or were they just in the Golden Goose room the whole time talking about, like, nothing?
just waiting conveniently for them to show up to just start talking about the actual important thing. I feel like maybe they went on to another just kind of random small room, I guess. That's the most likely explanation.
But wouldn't they have noticed that they just kind of disappeared and then magically came back?
Maybe they had to go to the bathroom?
But then how would Wonka know?
I don't know.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
No wonder Dahl hated that scene. And now the last thing of the visuals and the Oompa Loompa songs.
Which, first, like, okay, first of all, you gotta give the new one a little props for getting all that choreography with one guy.
And that's not to mention the scenes they cut with all that.
Yeah. So, there's one thing right there. Another thing is the new one's actually got choreography. Like, the old one, the only one with real, like, legit choreography is Mike.
Yeah, the Augustus one, they're just standing there and there's this weird trippy text going by. Violet's, they're just kind of walking around in circles.
Yeah.
Veruca's, okay, there's a little bit, they're sticking their heads in, there's text, but imagine if you were Charlie watching
That'd
that.
be so
I mean, yeah, there's a camera underneath the,
in the shoe.
yeah, and you can see it, but then you're Charlie and you're just seeing them stick their heads in the
It's just the Oompa Loompas just like looking in the hole and singing. Oompa Loompa Doompa.
Grandpa,
And
what's
going
going
back,
on?
And like going back and forth.
It's like, Grandpa, what's going on?
I don't know, let's run.
I don't like this chocolate factory, Grandpa.
The Oompa Loompas just sing to me about what a horrible person I am.
And then there's like, okay, the choreography in the Mike one's kind of cool, but they went all out in the new one, and that's one
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, even though the new one had, for the mic, it had the least, like, dance choreography, but it still had a lot of
But
choreography.
it did have its own visual gimmick because
Yeah.
they're changing channels. They go to like VH1, they go to Food Network, Animal Planet, some, I think, Infomercial Network with Rock'em Sock'em Robots, HBO, another VH1 with the Beatles, and some news.
Yeah. I guess
But that's pretty
Fox. Yeah, like, it's definitely a kind of cool way to get them singing the song.
And it gives it a more size and scale for for Mike's punishment. And even when they're just standing there throwing garbage in, it looks great. The only thing, there's one little nitpick of that. It's in the Veruca song where they just magically float over to the hole when they're singing, and lots of other things as well. They don't move their legs or anything. They just kind of slide.
One thing
Other
I
than that, it's good.
would point out on the mic is, like, this isn't even really a nitpick. It's really not a problem. I have, like, not the slightest clue in the world about it. But it's just an interesting thing is, like, this is a TV. Like, before Mike was shrunk, there's just actual channels on it. So, like, why are the Oompa Loompas on TV?
My
I don't
guess
know.
is there's like studio rooms or something.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense.
Or like green screen rooms or something.
Yeah, that would make sense. I have another kind of interesting thing to point out, but I want to point that out later. So
But if you look at the Augustus one, look at all that choreography.
that
they're
one's
doing.
got the most choreography by far.
And it's ironic because in the old one, the Augustus one has no choreography. They're just standing there.
Yeah, like practically just going about the business words there.
Yeah, it's so ironic. And
and like
also, one more thing before the visuals. The Oompa Loompas in the old one look creepy.
yeah, like sure they're like classic like Oompa Loompas, but Oompa Loompas aren't aliens.
They're people.
Yeah, like the movie is not a sci-fi movie. Like
I mean, granted, they say they come from Loompa Land, but That's a country. Those
Yeah.
are people. What people do you know that have orange skin, bulging spiked knees, curly green hair, and just weird stubby sausage fingers?
Yeah. Like, the new one, they're people. Like, sure, they're tiny people with weird hair, but they're people.
And that's what they were in the book. They were people.
They were-
who communicated like through hand gestures.
Yeah.
And a lot of people complain, oh, it shows too much. I didn't want to see Loompa-Land. Then don't read the book. Because they show you Loompa-Land in that one. I never expected a Vernicious Canid to be a dragonfly. That's not a Vernicious Canid, that's a dragonfly.
Yeah.
All that stuff was in the book, but just be thankful they didn't include the part about the Oompa Loompas being naked when he found them.
Yeah, that's probably smart that they didn't bring that up.
Just be thankful for that. And so, the characters.
Yeah. Before we do that, just since we're on an in-between period, I'm going to bring up my little, I guess I'll call it a nitpick note, whatever. Anyways, so in the beginning of the movie...
Which one?
The new one. Not the very beginning, but...
Which with the cool factory scene.
Yeah.
That was, even though it was CG, it looked really cool. One more thing for the visuals.
But,
And it just kind of shows that he places the ticket on there.
Right,
It's
yeah.
a nice little thing. And I just kind of noticed the last one when he puts it on and then pats it, that's Veruca's ticket. I noticed that because it goes to London.
yeah. But anyways, what I was saying is when, is that,
Yes?
at the, beginning of the new one, they, when the trucks are driving out, at the start, when they're driving out delivering the chocolate, and then when all the people go out to, like, post the signs, with Wonka's announcement of letting their kids in the factory and all, like, when they get out to staple the sign, you distinctly see they're people, so why are there people?
Either Oompa Loompas in disguise or truck drivers for hire like in the book.
Yeah.
Anyways, the characters. We already talked about Wonka, but now let's talk about Charlie. A lot of people don't like the new Charlie because, oh, he doesn't do anything wrong, he's pretty much Jesus, which, I'll admit that's a problem. He's not
Yeah.
the most interesting character, but here's the thing. Charlie's not supposed to be a character. He's supposed to be, I don't remember the term, but it's a placement character.
Basically, he doesn't learn the lesson. He kind of is the lesson
Well,
of
actually,
the movie.
what he is he's
sort
a
of.
placement character. He's like, a placement character is a character you write in specifically with no character traits. Dahl does this with all his protagonists, if you notice, so that the viewer can imagine themselves in that position. Just like Timmy Turner, just like Ash Ketchum, just like Bender from Futurama. You have to imagine yourself as those people.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Please don't imagine yourself as Bender.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, because, like, he's kind of like a foil of all the other characters.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be, as Burton said himself, the studio is trying to make Charlie this interesting character, but no, he's not supposed to be interesting. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to gravitate toward him. He's supposed to be the nobody kid that everyone just glances over. So then when he wins at the end, it's more significant for him that he's finally got something to call his own.
Yeah, because, like, I feel like a lot of, like, movies that would kind of portray this, like, kind of, like, poor underdog would, like, probably go to depict, like, a, really small, like, weak, but, like, really intelligent kid that he uses his intelligence to save the day. But one line that really stood out to me when I was rewatching the new one is, at the start, when the narrator says, he wasn't, like, stronger or whatever, or more clever than other children. So that really shows, like, there honestly really is not really much anything special about Charlie, other than that he's nice.
Yeah, but
And he's-
nice doesn't get you far in life sometimes. And
Yeah.
Charlie he was being left alone. Now he's finally got something, and he feels great about it.
Yeah.
Although the ending scene, of course, that is really stupid.
Yeah, and that kind of just distracted from...
Anyways, the grandparents.
Yeah,
And
so-
actually just the whole Bucket family. One thing I want to say, Charlie's father is not dead.
Yeah.
I don't get why they did that in the original version. He's supposed to have a job at a toothpaste factory, not a toothpaste factory, or toothpaste. Anyways, why did they kill off Charlie's father? What happened to Mr. Bucket? What's wrong with Mr. Bucket?
I guess just to give the family a little more, like, of a hard circumstance, not
But
having
it's
a
so stupid.
Yeah, like, I guess the idea was to make Charlie have to...
Okay,
like,
not stupid,
work.
unneeded.
Yeah. Like, to make Charlie have to work himself, so, like, since they didn't have
So again, not needed.
Yeah, that really doesn't
And it
add
takes off
anything
the Roald Dahl edge. I mean, a guy working in a toothpaste factory.
Yeah,
That's Roald Dahl.
Yep. Kind of like the dark, twisted, mysterious, creepy version of Dr. Seuss, almost.
Kind of is. Oh, and another little thing, both for the effects, story, and kind of character is the Prince Pontagetti scene.
Yeah, that's such a great scene.
I really wish they put that. Well, and I know they couldn't have put that in the original, but it would
Yeah.
have been cool if they at least mentioned the story like they did in the book. Anyways,
Like they mentioned Slugworth in the new one, but even though he's just a minor character.
and Mrs. Bucket's pretty much the same in both of them. Grandpa Joe,
It's hard, he's so different, because in the original one, he wasn't that great a guy, honestly. Like,
stubborn, kind of uptight, and he wanted his way or the highway.
yeah.
Good character, though.
And he wasn't necessarily the best influence on Charlie.
Yeah, because he almost got him lacerated by a giant fan.
And he did not hesitate at all to get his hopes way up of finding a ticket, which, honestly, he didn't really have much of a chance here. Like,
He's lucky he found one at all.
you're just lucky to be here.
And, like, he's just... Everyone's like, now Charlie... Like in the book, they do
Yeah.
this. And in the new movie, too. You can find it, it might happen. And he's like, no, he's gonna find all five.
Yeah. Like, that's...
I mean, it'd be one thing if he was like, kind of cheering him on, like, yeah, you're gonna find all five. Kind of like, cheering him on, but he's like, no, you're gonna find all
Like,
five.
I'm counting on you to find all five. Like, it's honestly, it's just like, makes him a little less... He's still really likable, and I, like, enjoy him as a character, but it's just like, he doesn't seem like he's like that big old, like, wise grandfather who, like, kind of knows all the stories and, like...
As they say in, I don't remember who said this, but there's a difference between childlike and childish. Grandpa Joe in the old one is childish, and the new one, he's childlike.
Yeah.
He's like an 8-year-old in in an old man's body, which, speaking of the new version...
He's basically kind of like older Charlie, practically.
Yeah, and this is gonna be kind of weird, but I kind of like the actor more because he seems more old and frail.
Yeah.
And he seems like the sweetest guy.
Yeah, honestly, like, he seems like a guy I'd like to hang out with. Like, and even when, like, when Violet's, like, chewing the gum, like, in the old one, as funny of a line as it is, like...
Why is she disobeying Mr. Wonka?
Because she's a nitwit. Like, in the new one, like, funny as a line as that is, in the new one, when like, he's just saying, like, young lady, I think you'd better... Like, he's trying to be helpful here.
And
like,
if you look, like, when Veruca's throwing down the chute or anything, he's always the one who looks the most horrified, aside from the parent
yeah.
of the kid.
And, like, especially, like, you kind of get a good look at that in, when Augustus goes after, like, Charlie's like, oh, the Oompa Loompa's really joking. And he's like, oh, yes, he'll be just fine. Like, after Charlie really kind of, like, goes on, he just kind of has this look like, oh, no. Like, this is kind of dangerous and bad. It's just, like, this look of worry. Like, he just seems, like, a lot more like a guy that I'd be comfortable with being my grandpa.
Yeah, that'd be
like,
great.
Yeah, and, like, going up to the chocolate factory with grandpa. Wouldn't mind that at all.
He seems so cool, and like when he's all excited, he's dancing for joy. Oh, that is so cool.
And also, with him like that, it makes him contrast really well with Grandpa George, who, like, in the old movie, well...
He didn't get a line.
Yeah. But, like, if they had, like, the Grandpa George from the new movie with the Grandpa Joe from the old movie, it wouldn't have worked quite as well.
But speaking of the grandparents in the new one, the old one, they get, like, nothing to do.
Yeah, really, Grandpa Joe is the only Bucket who, which actually, I was, looking at something, and I figured out something interesting. At least in the new movie, this isn't necessarily confirmed, but when they get back home, he specifically, like, hugs and gets kissed by Charlie's mom, which implies that he's from her side of the family. Therefore, he's not actually a Bucket.
Well, actually, they do confirm that in the movie. Remember when Grandpa George says, well, I feel like I've been eating cabbage water forever, and then Mr. Bucket says, now, Dad.
Okay, yeah,
Wait.
okay, yeah. So yeah, there's confirmation. So, Grandpa Joe's not actually a Bucket.
But he considers himself, like,
Okay, well, yeah.
holy buckets.
Yeah.
He considers himself part of the family. Well, he lives with the family.
Yeah.
So, like, kind of like, I was going to say Grandma Adams, but she isn't Adams.
Yeah.
So, in the old one, they're pretty much props for Grandpa Joe to use. But in the new one, they all have their own personalities.
Yeah, like,
Like how Grandpa Joe is kind of the upbeat little kid. Grandma Josephine is the wise-natured grandmother who tries to bring him down to earth, but still tries to be happy and
Yep,
upbeat.
very respectful. Like, kind of a very typical grandmotherly type figure.
I kind of wish she got more lines.
Yeah. In fact, after, Charlie goes off to the factory, she, like, well, I guess none of them really do much after that point, because they're not in it for most of it. But, like, she really doesn't, like, she probably does the least, or at least has probably the least importance, like.
Then there's the other two grandparents.
Then there's, Grandpa George, who's, Grandpa George is hilarious in this movie.
He is so negative.
Yeah.
You know how much I hate sandwiches and love being negative.
It's like, oh, what I'd give to go to that factory one more time. Well, you can't, because you are like, well, you won't, because you can't. No one can. The little factory of yours is about the closest anyone is going to get.
And then, like, I love the scene. They're all saying, "Oh, Charlie, you can find a ticket." Grandpa Joe doesn't go like, "Oh, you can get all 5." He's like, "Yes, Charlie, please find a ticket. This will be so cool."
He's like, and he just says like, wouldn't it be amazing to open a candy bar and find one of those tickets?
Yeah, he's getting him all excited. And then Grandpa George is like, "Well, you can't. The only kids who can find a bar, find the golden tickets, the one who can afford to buy in bars every day. Charlie only gets one a year. Here's a stand check." And he's so mean to all the kids who find tickets.
Yeah, he's like, I tell you, the first kid who finds a ticket is going to be fat.
Augustus, look here, Augustus.
Yep. And then, with all of them, he's just like, just scorns them. And then when they get to Mike, and he's like, when Mike's just like, I don't know, I hate chocolate.
Well, it's a good thing you go to a chocolate factory. You are grateful little. I love Grandpa
Yeah.
George.
But then, of course, one of the like great I can't really say one of the greatest, but a great moment from the movie is like when Charlie decides that he's not going to go and take the money. It's Grandpa George who convinces him otherwise.
Yeah, and it's really...
That's a great moment because it's not like, oh, they're inconsistent with this character. Like, it kind of shows just kind of another side of him. Like, even if
He's
he's
stern,
negative,
but he means well.
yeah, even if he's negative and all, he's still just like a grandfather.
Yeah, and I kind of like, even though it's a little small scene, I kind of like it when he hugs Charlie goodnight. It's just kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's
it
clear,
shows
like,
that he doesn't dislike Charlie. He does. I mean, he's his grandpa, but he's just got a negative view most of the time. And it's not like he's like doesn't want him to find the ticket. He's just, if
like,
anything,
you can't.
if anything, he's just trying to like knock his hopes up, like make sure he knows, like, I hope you know you're not gonna get one. Like, you know that, right?
Yeah, and
But when he does, he's like, okay, you got it. That's good. Like, keep it.
now you go.
Yeah.
And even when he's scorning him, it's like a loving way.
It's like, are you a dummy?
He's also not just cranky, but he's really smart too.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, there's money. Money is printed every day. You'll never run out. There's only 5 of these tickets, and
Yeah,
you have one, and there will never be any more.
He's like actually like underneath kind of his gruff, like negative outside. He's actually really wise and all. Like,
It kind of would he's actually like one of the more developed characters. What little screen time he gets.
yeah.
To be honest, I kind of
I think he's gonna make the list for like most developed character in a movie who's got like less than like
he's got like 10
20
lines.
Yeah, he was.
And I kind of wish he was in more of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe at least, like, I don't know, just like if they did Glass Elevator, give him more of a role.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Georgina.
Georgina's hilarious.
Is the exact opposite of Grandpa George.
Like, first of all, not only is she just really positive, but also,
Insane.
yeah, she is mentally challenged. Like, the very first line she has is, I love grapes.
And it's out of context.
It's completely irrelevant to everything.
The conversation leading up to is, I used to work for Mr. Wonka.
He did? You did?
He did.
He did.
I love grapes.
And also, similar to Grandpa George, but it's kind of a different thing. Whereas Grandpa George kind of is like this gruff, stern kind, but then kind of convinced him to go and take the ticket and all. It's kind of Grandma Georgina who kind of does a similar thing where she just seems like she's got no clue what's going on, but she also kind of gives a couple just like big old nuts of glory. That sounded weird. But balls of wisdom, that's also weird. You know what I mean.
Little nuggets of wisdom.
There we go.
Kind of like the things are going to get better. And for once, Grandma Georgina knew exactly what she was talking about.
Or when she says, nothing is impossible.
That was good coming from her.
Yeah, it works. Like, they could have just as easily had Grandma Josephine say that, and it would have still worked just fine. But when it comes from her, just kind of like honestly, there's a chance she didn't know why she was saying that. She just kind of like wanted to tell him that. It's
She could feel that he needed to hear that.
yeah, she's just like, he needs to hear this. So, like, in fact, that's probably likely. Like, given the fact that when they were all talking about working at a chocolate factory, she just goes up and brings up grapes. Like,
Or when they're talking about Violet, she just brings up dragonflies.
despicable.
You don't even know what we're talking about, do you?
Dragonflies? Like, she seems to have, like, an idea of, like, context. She just interprets the wrong context. Like, she thought they were talking about dragonflies. She thought they were talking about grapes. Like, she almost seemed like, when,
She kind of seems like a little kid, like a 4-year-old trying to fit in with an adult conversation.
yeah.
Funny thing is, her and George are super developed.
Yeah.
And they get, like, nothing to do.
Yeah, and she's hardly anything she ever says is relevant to anything. But yet it always works with her.
Now, funny thing is, before we get on to the ticket winners and their family, the Oompa Loompas actually have more personality in the new one.
They seem to be more individual. Like,
Despite being clones of each other.
yeah, like,
The Oompa Loompas are
well, first of all,
in the old one.
yeah, in the old one, all they do is like they're not even really there when they sing. All they do is sing and go about their work. But
They're
in
just
the
background characters.
yeah, in the new one, there's a lot of moments where we see Oompa Loompa actually like doing something like the hairy Oompa Loompa or
And they're described to be very mischievous. They're they like playing jokes, but they're also very cathartic.
yeah. Or the Oompa,
And
the
they
chief
love
of the
coconuts.
Oompa Loompas at the begin, or when we first like see the Loompa Land and all the chief of the Oompa Loompas, we actually get like a kind of a chief figure.
Wonder where he went.
Yeah, he's probably still there, but he just kind of dresses.
Maybe he's
differently.
Doris.
Maybe he's, and one of them even has a name.
Hello, Doris.
I mean, it's a woman.
Which brings up the question: how do Oompa Loompas procreate? Well, in the book they say there's women, but we don't see any. We only see the men work.
Well, we see Doris, but
Hello, Doris. Maybe she's like the Smurfette of the group.
well,
The one female has to populate the whole rest of the generation.
If you see that room, there are some other
Oh, okay.
yeah, which I guess she could have been like, she's just marrying all 1,000 of us and becoming our Oompa Loompa queen for all eternity. Isn't that right, honey?
Only they'd probably say like,
Yeah. But
they're each given kind of more personality.
and like they just seem like I'd like to hang out with an Oompa Loompa. Like if I saw an old classic movie Oompa Loompa in real life, I would back away slowly.
Not just because they look creepy, but because they're kind of a hive mind, sort of.
Yeah.
Despite looking the same, each one acts the same. In the new one, they all look the same, but they all got their own little things. And they
Yeah.
even have different voices for being the original guy. Like, some talk like Waldo, and some talk really deep.
Yeah, like I think it'd be cool to hang out with the Oompa Loompas in the new movie. Like
I would just
Yeah.
hang around eating coca beans.
yeah, that would be a good time. But yeah, like I saw, like if I was like walking along the street and all of a sudden like the old Oompa Loompas come out of like an alley, I would like, okay, all right, nice Oompa Loompas.
And I kind of like how they gave the Oompa Loompas their own logo.
Yeah,
I don't know what it means, but I think it's cool. So now, which of the ticket winners should we start with?
let's just go in order. Let's just go with the Guestus first.
Augustus! In the old one, this is kind of a weird thing to start off with, but he's not fat in the old one.
He's really not. And I was going on the Roald Dahl wiki, just kind of like look up some random things about some of the characters.
Just kind of research.
Yeah, just some random research. And I was looking at the comments on the wiki page for Augustus Gloop, and the first thing I noticed was none of the commenters were registered users, which is usually...
That's a bad sign.
Yeah. But overall, the wiki seemed fairly well maintained, but I won't get into complaining about the wiki and all. Anyways, but just like, most of the comments were like, oh, I really like the old depiction of him, because he wasn't too fat, and he wasn't, like, that mean or that dumb or anything. Like,
Augustus is supposed to be fat and mean!
yeah, that's the point. That's why else, like, if you like him being, like, not fat and not mean, then... But then you still get him sucked up the pipe?
How did he get stuck?
Yeah, he.
I mean, really,
I mean,
anyone could have gotten stuck in a pipe that small, for one. And two, he's a little rounder than everyone else, but Violet's not really the thinnest either.
Yeah, Violet's honestly a little chubby, and I mean, sure, he's still pretty chubby, and we see him eating quite a bit.
But he must have a high metabolism or something.
Yeah, and honestly, like, his mom and dad are big.
Oh, they're huge.
Yeah, but he's just kind of a little plump. Like, and even when he's eating in the chocolate room, he's just kind of like...
Just kind of eating like everyone else, but in the new one...
He is...
They even play, like, monster music.
that shot, like, everyone's going about. There's just these funny little moments, like, Mrs. Beauregard, like, and... like Mike crushing the thing, and then like it just cuts to like this, like Augustus's feet just like, and there's this big dramatic music because he just like reaches out and grabs these things and just stuffs them in his mouth.
And then another little thing, just briefly on the visuals things, he's not stuck on that pipe. In the you can tell he's standing on something.
Yeah.
And when he shoots up, but what about the chocolate? It just stays there.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
And just a little thing that's always bugged me. Ever since I was a little kid, it's always bugged me.
Yeah. Like,
it doesn't matter, but it's just a little thing. Mm-hmm. And but in Augustus, personality-wise, in the old one, he's just kind of a kid who, he likes eating, but in all respects, he's just kind of a respectable guy.
Like, he even expresses he even expresses concern for Wonka. He's like, it's going to cost him a fortune in fudge.
I mean, he's kind of saying that like a joke, but he's like, well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, really, in all honesty,
and
if everyone lasted throughout the whole thing, I can actually kind of see Wonka picking Augustus. I mean, he has a passion for food, and he's not that beastly.
Yeah, and honestly, when he says that line, like, it's going to cost him a fortune in fudge, like, anyone could have said that, and it could have still applied. Like, if it's completely possible Augustus wasn't even talking about himself. I mean, he's just like, there's a bunch of kids going to a chocolate factory. What do you think is gonna happen?
It's the way he says it's not like, I feel sorry for Wonka. It's gonna cost him a fortune in fudge. He's kind of like, feel sorry for Wonka. It's gonna cost him a fortune in fudge.
Like, as if, like,
he's nice.
Yeah, he's just...
I'd hang out with him.
His only real issue is he is not the best listener when people are telling him to stop drinking from the chocolate river.
Well, even then, that's one thing they did get from the book that I kind of like, is that he ignores them, but I could actually kind of see, like, him zoning out. He seems nice enough.
Yeah, honestly, there's really nothing too wrong with him.
Like, this is going to be a problem with all of them, all except for Veruca. They're too nice.
Yeah, they each have kind of one little issue with them.
But in all honesty, I'd hang out with them.
Yeah, like...
I'd hang out with all but Veruca.
None of them really seem like, other than Veruca, they've really got something that would make them like, oh, no, that's a bad kid right there.
I could call them my friends.
Yeah.
I'm sure Violet might be a little annoying, we'll get to that, and Augustus may be a little boring, just eating all the time, but they seem like fine people.
Yeah, like, there's really, I mean, sure they might not be the best of people, but they don't deserve, like, to get, like, sucked up, blown up, etc., and, like, treated like, oh, those were such terrible children.
And then, in the new one,
they're deserving of their fate.
But Augustus specifically, let's talk about him.
Yeah, like, first of all, we see,
like I said, stomach for brain.
Yeah, when we see him for the first time, he's got chocolate on his face. He's eating while we first see him, and he talks about, like, eating the chocolate, and, like, he's not just, like, eating while they're interviewing him and all.
He's gorging himself.
Yeah. And, like, they're like, how'd you celebrate? I ate my candy.
And he's obsessed with eating, and he's really standoffish. Like, what, like, he kind of nudges Veruca, says, I'm Augustus Gloop. I love your chocolate.
Yeah.
He thinks a lot higher of himself than what he actually is. Mm-hmm. He's obsessed with eating. He is repulsive. So
he's immature.
So big and vile. So greedy, foul, and infantile.
Exactly.
He is just...
He's loved by people everywhere.
He's obnoxious, he's rude, and I love it so much.
It works. Like, a lot of people say, oh, I like how they depict the kids in the old one because they're nice and all. I'm like... But the whole point of Charlie is to be nice so that the other kids aren't nice.
The only reason they're bad in the old one is because just by Charlie in comparison.
Yeah.
Like, and really, he's no better than them because of the fizzy lifting drinks thing. But in the new one...
He just figured out how to counteract it. Like, would Augustus have won if he figured out how to push himself back down the tube?
Would Violet have won if she just would have sneezed all the juice out?
Yeah? Or would, like, Veruca have won if she could have climbed out? Mike's really the only one who's kind of in a pickle here.
Yeah. Hey, that's not fair! I want to win too!
Shut up, Mike.
Come on, it's not fair!
Mumbler.
Yeah, but, and in the new one, I can see why he gets stuck in the pipe. And another thing...
He's big enough to get stuck.
He's enormous. And another thing I didn't notice, the kid who played Augustus doesn't speak English.
It makes him more authentic.
But actually, these kids are great actors.
Yeah.
Both versions.
Which, yeah, yeah, like, both of the Augustus ones are authentically German, and Veruca, both of her actors were authentically, English. Charlie's newer actor is authentically English, but he wasn't English in the old ones, so... Which the book, as I understand it, didn't state their nationalities.
It does that it's another
yeah.
placement thing. It imagines that it's in your area.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really say any of
That's
theirs,
why,
but...
in another little clever thing they did in the Burton version, some English accents, some Irish accents, some American accents.
Yeah, like, that's one thing that's almost kind of bugged me, but not to a point where I'm like, ugh, just like,
It's supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah, kind of like where Charlie is at. Which, honestly,
I always thought it was Switzerland as a kid for some reason.
I guess
no idea
chocolate, that makes sense in theory. But I kind of like, in the old one, I kind of see it as like somewhere in America. In the new one, I have always kind of seen it as just more English, or England, somewhere in England. But, yeah, it is kind of nice that it's ambiguous. But one thing, I feel like there'd almost be, if I were Wonka, I'd almost be showing a little bit of bias towards Charlie, just because he's hometown.
Kind of.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, imagine if Augustus had won and, like, they shoot up in the Great Glass Elevators, like, where do you live? I live in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to pack our overnight bags.
All right. Let's go back down. Time to go packing. Or, yeah, like, any of the other ones, like, where do you live? Like,
Buckinghamshire, England, Mr. Wonka.
It's pretty convenient that Charlie won and happens to live just a couple blocks away from the
I can
factory.
kind of imagine new Mike winning. Where do you live? Whatever.
It's like, why do you care? Try to stalk me or something?
And so, what about Mrs. Gloop?
Mrs. Goop...
She's pretty much the same in both versions.
Yeah, she's just a big woman who doesn't really mind her son eating, but is...
But is still kind of overprotective.
Yeah.
Augustus, sweetheart, save some room for later. I don't know why, I just love the delivery of that line.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And then, Violet.
Violet, in the old one, kind of a similar thing. She's really not all that bad.
She's a little snappish.
Really, her only big problems is she's kind of bad-mannered. She's just, like...
But what kid today isn't?
Yeah, I mean, like, she chews gum with her mouth open, puts it behind her ear, and whatnot. And the only other thing is she's kind of rude to her dad. But
her dad's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, her dad's really obnoxious, I don't really blame her. And B, we really don't ever see her being rude to anyone else other than her dad.
And Veruca, but Veruca had it coming. Just like, I want to open up now, can it?
Yeah.
Which, yeah, anyone could have done that.
Yeah, like, honestly, there's not too much wrong with Violet other than she's kind of bad-mannered and a little bit rude
But
sometimes.
in the new one,
she's actually, like, over-competitive, like, has to win, I'm gonna be the best.
And she's, like, brainwashed,
Yeah.
too.
And also, it's a little thing with Violet is, it's kind of also a little more, in her case, sort of her mom's fault, but kind of, like, it's less of, like, like Mr. Salt letting her become this, whereas, just Mrs. Beauregard's behavior just rubbed off on her, and she became like that.
Yeah, and they're pretty much, they dress alike, they look alike.
Yep, they act alike.
And she's, again, very snap-offish, but even worse so.
Yeah.
Like, remember her first and pretty much only interaction with Charlie? Why don't you just start over? Why don't you just try a new piece?
Because then I wouldn't be a champion. I'd be a loser like you.
And just kind of gives him, like, the stink eye.
Yeah. Which, that's kind of one thing that, I wouldn't say I like or dislike either way, I'll just point it out, though, is that in the old one, no one ever really interacts with Charlie, which could kind of easily be, like, gone as, like, they just kind of overlook him and all. And in the new one, most of hardly any of them really interact with him, but the ones that do kind of, like, specifically, like,
it leaves an impression.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike only referenced him once, just kind of yelling at him once, and
And he
yet
wasn't-
people say they get along.
Yeah, I don't see how they
They
get
hate
along.
each other.
I wouldn't necessarily hate each other.
Well, Mike hates Charlie for sure.
I'd say he's indifferent to him. Like, he's just like, Charlie, who cares? Like, I wouldn't say, like, ugh, I hate that guy. He's like...
But in his mind, he hates him.
Yeah. Like, the only time he really talks to him, he's yelling, but he's not really yelling at Charlie. Charlie's like, it doesn't really have to point, it's just candy. And Charlie's just like, no, like, who cares? He's more yelling at Wonka through Charlie.
Candy doesn't have a point. It's Candy. It's stupid! Candy is a waste of time.
Even though the flashbacks were really pointless, that little bit there with Mike talking, like, through Christopher Lee, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and so, okay, I know I said that the new version does like the characters better, with one exception. This is a little biased. I like Miss Beauregard. She's really great. I love Mr. Beauregard.
Yeah, Mr. Beauregard is just hilarious.
Every scene is laugh out loud funny.
Every time he opens his mouth, you can't help laughing at him.
And I love his introduction. Because the reporter doesn't want to talk about him. He's like, her father's a respected politician. Hi, Squat for Sam Beauregard here, Square Deal Sam, with all today's great giveaway bargains. He is so funny. If they remade it again, I could see Jim Carrey as that role.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Or like Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Hi, Sam Beauregard here with all today's great giveaway bargains.
Yeah, Mrs. Beauregard is hilarious and has a lot of great moments like, chocolate contains a certain property that gives people the feeling of being in love. You don't say. Like, she's got a lot of funny moments like that,
It's so funny.
But Mr. Beauregard is just hilarious.
However, although Mr. Beauregard is like a saint of comedy, Ms. Beauregard is the better character.
And she, like, fits for the role. As I kind of said, her behavior rubs off on Violet. That's one thing, is Violet's actually pretty respectful to her mom. If anything, she kind of almost fears her in some ways.
She does.
Yeah.
And Ms. Beauregard is just as nasty as Violet.
Yeah.
Because, like, even more so. Because remember when she's like, how am I can't have a blueberry as a daughter. And the old one's like, I have a blueberry for a daughter, what am I going to do? Is she going to be okay? She's like, how is she supposed to compete?
Yeah, like,
She
honestly,
sees her as
she
not...
really doesn't care that much about her. She's like, little younger me.
She's
I'm
like
so perfect.
She's like her racehorse.
Pretty much.
And remember, even in her interview, she's just a driven young woman. I don't know where she gets it. She's trying to make it all about her.
Yeah, which, then again, so is Mr. Beauregard.
But he was trying to turn it into a commercial.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, we're on international TV, might as well grow my business.
Mrs. Beauregard was just boasting about herself. But, like...
I also won trophies, mostly in baton.
Yeah, but, like, and then when Violet's about to chew the gum, like, sure, like, she made that choice to do it. But Mrs. Beauregard is totally encouraging, like, go on, keep chewing.
Keep chewing, kiddo. My girl's gonna be the first one to have a chewing gum meal. And, Mr. Beauregard's like, Violet, don't you do anything stupid. But then he kind of gets into it. Mm-hmm. With sour cream. What's for dessert, sweetie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then Ms. Beauregard is just a monster.
Yeah, like, she honestly makes Violet
Okay, not
look
monster,
so
because there's another character that's a monster.
Yeah.
But she is horrible.
Like, honestly...
She should have her own Oompa Loompa song.
Yeah, like, she's kind of like a character that, like...
She's a soccer mom through and through, and I hate those people.
Yeah, like, she's one of those people where, like, if I were hanging out with her too long, I would just want to smack her in the face.
That would make me, like, that alone would make me not want to hang out with Violet.
Yeah, like, Violet, like, even in the new movie, she's rude and all. Like, she's not a good kid at all. But, like, when she's kind of, like, with her mom, you kind of almost forget how bad Violet is, because you're just like, stop being you!
And, then when you see them together, it's just like, you're brainwashing your daughter.
Yeah. But, yeah, like, pretty much every time she, said something, she talks to Violet, like, it's just like this, like, you make me look good. Like, keep making
You're my accessory.
Yep. Like, practically.
Sheesh, man, who would have thought, like, Grandpa George and Mrs. Beauregard would be this deep? Now Veruca.
Yeah. Veruca...
In the old one.
Yeah, is just... she's, like, Slugworth aside, she's the villain.
Yeah, which Mike... In the book, the villains are Mike and Veruca, technically.
Yeah, in the new movie, it kind of, like, changed... It's kind of both of them, because Veruca's kind of more the villain for, like, the first half, and then Mike's kind of takes over after she goes.
Well, it's actually always kind of been Mike.
It's always
Funny
kind of
thing
Mike.
is, I actually kind of think Burton did this intentionally. He's like, okay, so in the book, they're both the villains. In the old version, we just had Veruca. Let's just make Mike this time.
Although,
We'll talk about Veruca in the new one, because I like what they did with her, but in the old one, she makes my ears bleed.
yeah, like,
I hate this kid. Now, the actress is good. She's good.
oh yeah, like,
I believe she's an obnoxious spoiled brat, but the problem is, she's an obnoxious spoiled brat, and her voice is grating.
yeah, it's just like, like,
Of course, like I said, great actress.
yeah, like, I mean, the character is an obnoxious spoiled brat.
But whenever she opens her mouth, I just want to smack her. Not because of what she says, but she is obnoxious.
Yeah. Which, the new one's kind of obnoxious in a different way, because she's just like,
A daddy's girl.
yeah, but like, makes, yeah, it's kind of different, but, the old one's just like, oh man,
She's
just
grating.
stop it, just stop.
She's also more bland as a character because she's spoiled and that's it.
Yeah.
But in the new one, she is
Yet
this
she gets
perfect
her-
little daddy's girl who is all happy and nice, and because she gets what everyone wants. But when she doesn't, she turns sour and rotten
Yeah.
and ugly. But even still, she thinks she's this perfect little princess because daddy's been pampering her all the time.
Yeah, which, oh, where was I? Oh well, it's slipped my mind again.
So yeah, and the old one doesn't have that. Veruca's got like a bunch of
Oh
layers.
yeah, I remember. Yeah. Yet the old Veruca's the one with a musical number.
Yeah. Good music, good lyrics, kind of. Not so good singing voice. Okay, some parts she really gets it right. I love the part where she's like, if I don't get the things I'm after, I'm going to scream. Just how nonchalant she is.
Yeah.
And how she throws the stuff at Wonka and he doesn't even blink.
Yeah, he's just...
But like when she's like, all shapes and sizes, and no!
Yeah.
But half the song she's really good, half the song she's really grating.
Yeah. Which, yeah, if the new one... in the new movie she had a musical number, it would feel really out of place. But at least it'd be a little more kind of...
But it would be even better with the if I don't get the things I'm after. Because
Yeah,
that is her. During that song number, that is Veruca in the new one. She's just all perfect and smiley, but just kind of...
And if I don't get what I want, I will kill you!
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Salt is a little bit of a tricky one to compare because if you don't know the backstory for Mr. Salt in the new one, it's kind of the same character. Well, they're portrayed differently. The old one's kind of persuaded as this sweaty, overworked father who is a doormat for his daughter, but in the new one, he's a suave businessman who thinks he can buy his daughter's love and respect. So he gives her all these gifts as a sign. He's like, oh, then she'll love me, but she just kind of sees him as a store. She doesn't see him as a father and doesn't really love him. And he kind of knows this, so he's like, maybe if I give her more, she'll actually start loving me. So it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Like, the old
And this is
one...
confirmed by Bert, by the way. That's not a fan theory. Burton actually said that.
Yeah, the old one is more like he almost seems like scared of her. Like, okay, I gotta give her this. Gotta give her this. She needs this. Okay, okay.
Not to say that that doesn't bring any funny
Yeah,
moments.
it's pretty funny.
Like,
but,
oh man, look at this contraption. My Veruca doesn't want one.
yeah, but
And, also the...
because like he knows like, okay, if she wants it, I have to get it, or else she's gonna hurt me.
And one more small little thing I like with the Veruca thing. Daddy, I want a boat like this. And then when another tunnel rides over, Daddy, I do not want a boat like this.
Yeah.
That was funny. All right, back to Mr. Salt.
Yeah, so yeah, in the new one, I think I would still say I like the new one more. He just seems like he seems like he fits more. Like he seems kind of more like a guy who seems.
And his funny moments are kind of funnier because they catch you off guard. And he's the straight man. Are you using the Hedon X3000 to do your soldering?
You're really weird.
And he plays so well off Mr. Wonka.
Yeah.
And like I said, that backstory, man.
Yeah.
That's just sad. Mm-hmm. All the characters that are pushed into the background for Wonka and Charlie, they're the ones with all the dimensions.
Yeah, and also we get to see with Mr. Salt a lot of like he is just kind of this really suave. Like when he's not around Veruca, which I guess this is kind of true in both versions, but he's kind of like stuck up. Like in one bit that was like deleted on the original DVD release.
Which I have no idea why.
Yeah, like
It was hilarious.
It's 2 seconds and it's hilarious and it doesn't distract. It just adds a funny little moment where
Seems like Mr. Wonka's 2/4 short of a buck, huh?
sorry, I don't speak American.
See, stuff like that. And like, I mean, sure, he's kind of snobbing the original, like with Mr. Beauregard trying to get a conversation going. What kind of business, you insult?
Nuts.
Okay, but in the new one, he's like a genuine uptight snob.
Yeah, except when he's around Veruca.
And he gets all soft.
Yeah, that's kind of his... Sorry, dear, Mr. Wonka's being unreasonable.
And she kind of uses him as a tool, but doesn't do it out of any maliciousness. I like that in the new Veruca. She's not malicious.
She just wants what she wants when she wants it. Like,
I've pitied
That's-
the guy who gets married to her.
yeah.
How do you think that'd turn out?
Oh dear.
If you get in it's kind of like what they say in Meet the Robinsons, which is ironic because the kid who plays Mike TV stars in that movie. When you have an argument, she's right. Even when she's wrong, she's right. I can totally see that.
Yeah.
So, Mike TV,
Let's just start on the old one. He's,
perfectly nice kid.
yeah, honestly, like... if
Nothing
anything-
wrong with him.
If anything, he's honestly kind of adorable. Like, he's just like this little kid who dresses up in his cowboy costume and watches his favorite TV show.
I mean, sure, he's a little mean. No, what are you crazy? Hey, Kenny, will ya?
Yeah, he's just kind of a little,
But again,
kind of immature.
But again,
like,
like you said,
yeah. And, like, the
he's just kind of like, oh, and he's the tiniest of them.
yeah, he's so, yeah, and, like, the moment when Wonka's singing Pure Imagination, and he just kind of, like, plucks out his hair, like, he doesn't even, he's kind of like, ow, that hurt, like, what are you doing? But he's, like, if like, Wonka did that to the new Mike, he'd be like,
He'd
get
punched in
off
the-
of me.
He'd be punched in the stomach mid-song.
Yeah.
Live there, you'll be free!
Yeah, like, but the real only moment of, like, villainy with Mike is not even really from Mike, like, it's more from his mom, like, he's like, do you think Slugworth would pay us extra for blah, blah, blah? Just keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. Like, it almost just seems like Mrs. TV is just kind of, like, using him to get some more money. Like, get money, like, he just kind of thinks, like, well, it's a chocolate factory, cool.
And he loves what he's singing. I mean, sure, he's a little bit of a know-it-all, and Willy Wonka kind of makes fun of him for that, but really, again, this is probably not a fan theory, this is probably a fan fact, because Charlie technically got disqualified with the fizzy lifting drinks. Up until the TV room, he had his eyes set on Mike.
Yeah, I mean, like,
If Mike didn't do that one thing, he might have gotten the factory.
yeah, and, like, because, like, you can tell, like, Mike enjoys it, because, like, he says stuff like, why don't they put this on TV?
Yeah, he's,
like,
he's loving this.
Yeah, and also,
Even in the tunnel, he's kind of like, whoa, but he's the only one who's not really scared. He's kind of like, whoa!
although Charlie and Grandpa Joe are enjoying it, too.
Yeah, but he's just kind of like, whoa!
Yeah, like, to him, it's like a roller coaster ride, practically.
And even the TV thing isn't that bad, because he's just kind of like, when he's signing the contract, I kind of saw this in a movie once, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but who doesn't do that?
Yeah, he just likes TV and kind of likes violence, but...
I'm sure he's a little desensitized with, like, his collection of guns, which... In the book, he's covered with guns, like,
Yeah.
all over his shirt, but in this one, he has, like, one or two. Which,
yeah.
of course, he's a little desensitized, but
And also,
perfectly fine kid.
yeah,
He'd fit in with today's society.
one thing I almost really like in some ways, but it just doesn't quite fit, like, what Mike TV is, but I still kind of enjoy kind of seeing it, is how he and Wonka like each other, like, kind of like you said, like, Wonka, like, kind of makes fun of him, but he kind of does it in, like, this lighthearted way. And, like,
I'm
when...
dreadful deaf in this ear. Please just speak a little louder. But he's just kind of... He's warm and friendly around him.
Yeah, and, like, it almost seems like, when Mike is, like, about to go to the TV, he's, like... And, like, Wonka's, like, talking to him about it, like, he's kind of... They just seem so kind of, like, nice, and it's...
I mean, Grandy does go, stop, don't, come back.
Yeah, but, like...
But he's still just kind of, you know...
Yeah.
And even another thing, he's not a bad... He's even got a better temper than I do. Like, with the exploding candy thing, I would have been like, okay, dude, what is this? But he's just like, boy, is that great stuff.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, because apparently the kid who played Mike on set was a pill. So, anyways, going on.
Yeah, like... Honestly, this... Like... And he really doesn't do a whole lot in the movie before... Like, it's his turn to get the axe. Like, he just kind of, like, walks around, says occasional line about TV and all.
He's a wide-eyed kid.
Yeah, he just kind of is...
Sorry about that, I bumped into something. Anyways,
The
Mike-
new Mike, though.
Oh, they took what was in the book, updated it, and really ran with it.
Yeah.
This kid is a monster through and through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no emotion. He's like a muggle version of Voldemort as a kid. No joke. He is a ruthless, horrible, rotten child.
Yeah, and you could almost kind of see through some ways that, like, a lot of this might be kind of brought on by some level of some sort of negligence, because, like, when his dad's talking about, like, him in his videos, like, sometimes I don't really know what he's talking about, like, he doesn't really seem to care too much, which could, like, drive that on, but nevertheless, like,
This kid is just a horrible person.
yeah, like,
From the very first line, all you have to do is check the manufacturing dates, offset by weather, factoring in the Nikke index. A retard could figure it out.
yeah, you can tell, like, oh, kid, calm down, buddy.
And another thing I like, they gave him this intellect, so he's not just arrogant and smug for no reason. He is miles above everyone, and he could, if he had Wonka's technology, he could probably try to take over the world.
Yeah.
Good
like,
thing he didn't win the factory, he'd become a supervillain.
Yeah, he would.
Actually, in the video game, the only good thing to come from it is he is a supervillain in that one. He reprograms the robots in there, and he ends up pretty much taking over the factory. And funny thing is, in the new version, that fits his character. This kid he's a supervillain.
Yeah, which throughout the movie he doesn't.
Which I love it.
Yeah, he's got like he pretty much got like a few lines for each like scene, but like every time he does something where there's a moment focus on him, he's doing something bad, like crushing the candy things, whatever they are.
And just looking in disgust at what he's happening. The Mike in the original was enjoying everything. He's just like, I don't even know why I'm here. I just found the ticket. Might as well take it.
Like, if anything, he just kind of like found the ticket because he's like,
I'm hungry.
like not even because he was hungry. He's just like, there's this stupid thing going on about candy. I'm going to prove to everyone how dumb they are and how easy this is to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's really his mentality. Like, it's like Donald Trump. Like, practically, like, someone might as well just, like, bet him. Like, hey, I bet you can't, like, be the next president. Like, you're on. It's like, hey, I bet you can't find a ticket. I found it.
Then again, Mike TV doesn't have Gary Johnson and Hillary Clinton running against him.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
But yeah, and, then, like, he'll just be like... And another thing, I kind of talked about the opposite of this, which I really like it both ways, but for this story and for Mike TV as a character, the new way fits way more. He hates Wonka.
with a passion.
Yeah, he's just like, every time, like, Wonka's doing something, he's just like, you are so stupid. And
And
also...
Wonka's trying to be nice to him, but
He's kind of like trying to be nice in a kind of demeaning way. Wonka's kind of almost kind of a jerk to him too with the whole mumbling thing.
but eventually he's just like, okay, I'm not even gonna try with you anymore.
Yeah, like, yeah. In fact, it almost seems like at first Wonka is like almost trying to do the same thing that the old Wonka did, kind of like tease him in a lighthearted way, and then Mike's
Try
just
to
like,
build a friendship.
yeah, and Mike's just like, I hate you, and he's eventually just like, okay, you know what, I hate you too.
And like even when he's trying to say hi to him, he's the first kid and like really the only one he kind of reached out to, saying, "Hey, you're Mike TV." He glares at him, get this death glare.
Yeah, and he actually kind of like compliments him on his intelligence, like
You're the little guy that cracked the system.
yeah, like Mike just like he just like hates everyone practically. He's just like, I want to do my thing, and you're all idiots.
The only time he really shows emotion is when Augustus gets sucked into the pipe. He's gonna stick, and when Veruca is getting carried off by the squirrels, he's like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, he kind of like when like it kind of starts going on. He kind of has a little like he kind of like jumps in surprise a little bit. But then again, there's squirrels attacking a little girl. It's kind of expected. Like whether you're a jerk or not, you'd be a little surprised as to whether you're concerned or not.
In Violet's, he's just kind of staring off like, "I knew it."
Yeah. Which fits his whole, like, know-it-all thing, like,
Even in Augustus's, he didn't seem all that concerned. Even Mr. TV, how bland and unexpressive he is, okay, not bland as character, but demeanor, he seemed concerned. Mike was just like, he's gonna stick.
Mm-hmm. Almost as if he's like...
Serves him right, the pig.
Yeah,
which
like...
we used in the VeggieTales version.
Yeah, like, honestly, he doesn't care that half about anyone.
He doesn't even care about the factory. He thinks candy is a waste of time.
Yeah, if he got the factory, he'd just use it to, like, use these teleporters to, like, send all these
Take over the world.
He would do whatever he wanted.
He'd make the Oompa Loompas his, like, dastardly little minions
You would probably torture them. They'd be better off in Loompa Land.
Yeah, or as in the video game, like you said, I'll just fire all the Oompa Loompas, just replace them with technology and robots. I can see him doing that.
Yeah. Like, he would, like, way modernize everything, and he would just, like, forget the candy. We are, like, making
going all
weapons,
industry.
we are making, like, machines,
We are going to
teleporters,
We're gonna
time machines, like,
we're gonna make the
anything.
world a utopia, but my utopia. Anyone who has a different idea, get out.
Yeah.
And which makes it all the more cathartic when his Oompa Loompa song comes on.
Yeah, because, like, even though it didn't happen, just that kind of... Because the Oompa Loompas, like, you'd expect at least, know about Wonka's plan to find a replacement. And since Mike has made it this far, I could
They're
almost...
like, oh no!
I could almost, like, say, like, in the, because, like, they probably would know that if he takes over, they are getting tortured, abused, and or replaced. And replacement doesn't mean, alright, sorry, we're having to downsize, so, you don't have your job anymore. It's been great working with your company. It's like, throw them out in the snow. Or, who knows, maybe just throw them in the garbage chute and turn on the furnace. That would not surprise me too
He's
much.
so desensitized to everything. Like I said, he's Voldemort.
Yeah, he's...
Except he's not like a murderer. He's just like, he's got Voldemort's emotional range. He has no capacity for love or joy. He just thinks of himself and his power and his gain.
Yep.
And so, like the Oompa Loompas, I can just imagine them. They look and they're like, okay, there's this nice kid, but if it's a 50 chance between this nice kid and Voldemort here.
And Voldemort has proven to be pretty adept to, like, figuring stuff out. He's intelligent. And we're in the TV room, and his name is Michael, air quote, Mike, TV. This is bad. But, like, when, like, he gets shrunk, like, mixed with the anger, I feel like there's probably some relief in there, like, yes, he is not our leader.
But when he's in the TV, the Oompa Loompas are so mad. They know he's Voldemort.
Yeah, they're like, you are a jerk, and we will
And
show
one thing I love, the look the first Oompa Loompa gives him is when he says, that we've ever, and he's like, he looks at you, oh yeah, we're going there.
Yeah, like, he just looks like, you know what's gonna happen.
We're going in for a wild ride, kid.
Like,
And then the very next Oompa Loompa, scowl on his face, hammering stuff.
yeah. And then the next ones are just, like, like, with the robot, the rocket sack robots are just, like, looking on, it's like,
Glaring at each
Punching.
other. And then there's the metal group.
and, like, even though he's wearing the glasses so you can't really see his eyes, you can kind of tell, like, Mike is like, oh no, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad.
This is horrible.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily say he necessarily, like, is in a state of, like, oh no, what have I done? But it's like,
I'm gonna die.
yeah. Like, yeah.
He deserves what he's gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, when he's all tiny, even then he's still Homer. Just put me back in the other way!
Mm-hmm.
Even then, he's Mike. Mike
Yeah.
TV. There's no way to say it better.
Yeah.
And, Mrs. TV in the old one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's kind of a bratty mom.
Yeah, and kind of like, not quite, I wouldn't go as far to say abusive of Mike.
She's just kind of negligent. And I
Yeah.
serve Molly's TV dinners here. She's never really been to the table.
Yeah, she really
Which,
doesn't.
again, was in the book. They
Yeah.
let TV be the third parent.
Yeah. Like, she really doesn't care too much about.
I mean, she
like,
cares about Mike. Of course, like, when she was... Like, of course she cares about, like, when she was shrunk and she was freaking out.
Yeah, but also, like,
She'd
she'd already shown that she's kind of frail. Like, she, like, would get lightheaded and, like, and all from, like, anything. And then when her son is there, like, she's kind of panicking. But, like, when there is no face of, like, alarm or danger, she's just like, alright, go on, do your thing.
We could get money off of this, you know, Mike.
Yep. Like,
And even though her voice is a little unique and strange, I actually kind of like the voice. It fits the character well.
yeah.
Really, this is kind of weird, but they couldn't have gotten a better actor for Mrs. TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I saw Mrs. TV in the book, I can perfectly see her like that, just like Mr. TV.
Yeah, Mr. TV works really well for...
He's a foil for Mike.
Totally. Because whereas Mike is just, like, full of anger and just rage for everything.
And contempt for everything around him.
Yeah, Mr. TV is just like,
He's like Ben Stein.
yeah. pretty much.
Which is funny because he talks like this. The actor in real life kind of sounds like this, but he sounds like this.
I'm a high school geography teacher, and I'm here to tell you that blah blah blah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you just how horrible a country it is.
Yeah, and like that also kind of adds kind of what I was saying over with like the negligence kind of leading to Mike just like I hate everything. Like you kind of see how just like one-walled, or not, I wouldn't say one-walled, but just kind of like how boring, I guess, Mr. TV is.
I'd hate to be in his class.
Yeah, like, I would fall asleep, probably.
He's like the teacher from Ferris Bueller. And another thing is, the one thing I agree with Doug Walker's review of this is that Mike TV's parents seem more inept in the original, and they seem like the brainless half-wits or inept people who would let TV raise their son.
Yeah.
I mean, he means well, of course, but like the one time he like even when he's trying to scold Mike, he's like, "Son, please."
Dad, he said enjoy.
And then the one other time, "Come on, Mike. I think Mr. Wonka knows what he's talking about." See, he's not even really scolding him. He's just like, "Come on, Mike."
Yeah, he's not like spoiling him. He's just like letting him go without discipline.
He's letting him raise himself.
Yeah. So like, whereas whereas the Salt are like, here, Veruca, have everything. We will give you everything and support you, and you give you no like support for yourself. Like they're just basically like, cool, do that. You know, maybe learn from your mistake. Oh well. Like they're not like giving him everything. They're just not.
Even when Mike shrunk, he's not freaking out. He's like, "And what do you exactly suppose we're gonna do about this?"
Yeah, like he's worried and all. Like when he's like, "Oh, I sure hope all the little pieces get through."
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes only half of the little pieces find their way through. If you only had one side of your son, which half would it be?
What kind of question is that?
Well, no need to snap. It was just a question.
But even then, any parent would do that.
Yeah, like he's clearly shown he's not like a like. It's not that he doesn't like. It's not that he doesn't care. He just doesn't quite. I don't know. I guess he just doesn't quite get it or something. I don't know. And he's just not strict enough. I don't know.
Art Simpson put it best. TV was more of a parent to me than you ever will be.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, that's that. And then there's the ending scene, which really should have been in the original, but of course they didn't have technology for it. Augustus, now, this is the one thing they kind of changed. Augustus, in the original version, got squeezed in the pipe, and now he's thin, but one, that already happened to Mike, and two, the kid's already kind of big. I mean, granted, he was wearing a fat suit, but still.
Yeah.
But if you do notice, he's huge before then, and even then, he's thinner now. Did you notice that?
A little bit, yeah.
They took the fat suit off him, but even then, he's kind of a bigger kid.
Also, he's dripping with chocolate, so he looks a little larger, so it's hard to really tell much of a difference.
Violet's all blue and stretchy like in the book. Veruca's covered in garbage, which, a little nice thing, there's an original Wonka bar from the 70s version on her or Mr. Salt, can't remember which one.
I'm pretty sure it's Mr. Salt.
I noticed that. Then Mike.
Mike? We really don't get to get a really good look at Mike or see his face or anything.
Well, I paused it and he just kind of got like, well, this is a thing.
Mm-hmm. Like, he's just stretched out and, like, paper thin. Jinx.
And Mr. Salt, not Mr. Salt, Mr. TV is just kind of, not considered, just kind of like, I'm going to have to get used to this.
Yeah, like, they almost kind of seem to both be like that.
Which, in the book, it kind of made it look like Mike was having a harder time walking. Because he's so thin and wobbly.
Yeah, that would make sense. But they didn't really go for that, which I guess, like...
Which, that would have been hard CG to do anyway. It looks good, though.
Mm-hmm. It looks good with him walking like that.
Even though from the back he kind of looks like Sid from Toy Story.
A little bit. I was actually thinking that same thing.
Yeah, so, the one final thing, the Charlie version is better, severity, which, kind of goes with the darker thing. The kids are in much more danger in this version. Like, in Augustus, he gets stuck in the pipe. Sure, he's kind of stuck, and yeah, it looks kind of hot in there from what it looks like. But Augustus, he's in the pipe, he gets spun around, he gets sucked in, he gets stuck, shoots up, gets stuck again. The pipe starts breaking, and then he shoots up.
And you can see, like, that bit where he's in there, he's, like, where the whole machine there with the pipe sticking out is, like, filling up with chocolate. So he's, like, and you can see, like, he's, like, trying to get out. Like, I need to get out here. Yeah. And also, like, for the most part, they, all of them, like, seem to be in a lot more fear. Like, Augustus, like, in the old ones, just, like... and he's just like struggling. But like in the new one, he looks like
it's the screams too. Does that sound like a kid who's in distress? What about?
Yeah, and like just a look on his face, he looks a lot more like distressed. And then Violet, like in the old one, she's just like, what is going on? I am so confused.
Sure, they say she's gonna explode, but it's kind of implied in the new one too.
Yeah, because Wong's like, well, we gotta squeeze it out fast.
And he kind of gives a look like that or else kind of look.
Yeah, and and you can see out there, like, she's like freaking out, like, I am turning, and like everyone else is like kind of freaking out too, like they're back.
And she's much bigger.
Yeah, she's huge.
She's not an oval, and she's like this blob.
Yeah, she's like squishy.
Yeah, and then Veruca kind of the same.
Well, she's like. Well, the thing is,
actually, no, the squirrels attack her.
Yeah, because in
the geese don't attack her in the old version.
Yeah, because she's just like singing, and then she's standing on the thing and falls. Like you don't see her reaction. Like just a little bit of I'm falling.
I wish we could have seen her reaction.
Yeah,
it would have been more cathartic because she's technically the better villain of the movie.
Yeah, since Mike was just a little old kid.
But in the new one, she gets attacked and scratched by a bunch of squirrels.
Yeah, and she's like screaming and like digging her fingers into the ground.
Even though Veruca is horrible when she makes those screams, I feel so sorry for her.
Yeah, like even when she just says like, I want them to stop.
I feel so bad for her.
I know, because like that looks scary.
I mean, if that was your daughter, imagine how you'd feel.
I would be freaked out. Or if that was me, I'm not a girl, but like still.
And she's like, especially because she's this defenseless, pampered girl. It's like if you have a pampered house cat and you release it into the wild.
Yeah, and then a bunch of like coyotes start attacking it.
Yeah. So there's a lot more severity there.
And then in Mike's case, like, Mike is just like...
Yeah, he almost dies.
When he gets out of the TV, he's like, wow, that was fun. And, like, the only time he shows a reaction is like, hey, I don't want to go in that bag. That's what he's concerned about. And the new one, like, he's freaking out because the Oompa Loompas are trying to kill him.
And it's not like a stage thing. They actually make contact with him. They hit him with the flyer. That he gets put in a sizzling frying pan. He gets punched by Rock'em Sock'em Robots. He gets a guitar broken over his head. He gets thrown in the air.
And they attempt to stab him.
They don't actually do it, but they attempted.
Yeah. Like... Yeah.
So these kids are in much more danger. Yeah, you can argue fizzy lifting drinks, but whatever.
Yeah, and they show it too. Like you can tell they're freaked out.
Yeah, and then of course at the end they have to live with the punishments.
Yep.
Some more than others. Mike. Really, actually, when you think about it, Mike is the Mike and Violet are the only ones that are really long lasting, but Mike's is the only real hindrance.
Yeah, like honestly, Violet's.
It's like a superpower.
The only problem is she's blue.
But that'd be cool to be stretchy like that. But Mike is so tall and fly. I mean, yeah, every basketball team in the country will be trying to get you. In the words of Roald Dahl.
You can slide through thin things if they're short enough or if they're tall enough. But yeah, that's a problem. Like it's hard to go through life.
10 feet tall and flat.
Especially if like you're still a kid at this point and you've got your whole life ahead of you.
And you're still growing.
Yeah, like.
Maybe it'll be like a temporary thing where it's like his bones need to set and he'll go back to normal.
Yeah, maybe, I guess, because otherwise it's going to be a rough life for little Mikey.
Big Mike now.
Tall Mikey, but thin Mikey.
Yeah. So, that is why we believe that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is far superior than Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Mm-hmm. This was fun. We gotta do this again sometime with some other thing.
Yeah, we can have our own little old versus new.
Yeah, well, Doug Walker does that, but...
yeah.
We have to do some more comparison stuff.
Yeah.
This is fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time, if there is a next time. See you guys!
Bye-bye.
Remember, Augustus Gloop will not be harmed.